What is up, you wild nematodes? So basically, Sabrina Carpenter recently announced an album, right? And the cover's making waves, making a pretty big splash, and here's the cover. I would like to toss my hat in. Before we get started, I would like to clarify, I like Sabrina Carpenter. She's one of the few new generation pop girls that I actually like. So this is like no hate towards her. I'm just participating in the discourse. I like her music. Bedchem is a bop, etc., etc. Okay? But I gotta say, this album cover, not very feminist. I'm not a fan. This is not woman empowerment.
What? You pick-me-ass bitch. How dare you criticize a celebrity? Get her ass, you guys.
I'm sorry. Wait! Before you dislike the video, please just hear me out, please! But I'm about to say something so controversial, y'all are about to be real mad at me. I do not think sexualizing yourself is very empowering. Please don't get mad at me. Okay, but if you're mad at me, please leave a comment so I can get that engagement. Thank you. But I don't think sexualizing yourself is empowering. I don't think doing exactly what the patriarchy wants you to do is really doing anything, because I've been seeing a lot of people saying it's subversive, it's subversive. How is it subversive? Because I'm seeing two main arguments here. Argument number one, freedom is empowering.
What? No, I know that sounds bad.
I have them pulled up here. Let's go over some posts I've seen. Sabrina Carpenter has started a very important conversation with that cover. And that conversation is that purity culture is hiding deep inside of feminism. Okay. Response. I respect your opinion, but myself feel differently because of the current cultural context. Women are losing our rights at an alarming pace in the States, and this kind of imagery in pop music, with a lot of less than critical listeners, is just not it right now. Truthfully, if she'd come out with this cover in a country that still had Roe v. Wade, etc., I'd probably really like it. That being said, I hope she chose this imagery and feels empowered as a woman in music. I think this is a perfectly good argument, but this is the response. They're taking our freedom, so your solution is to censor femsexuality. Please don't. Okay, first of all, where in this post did that person say they were gonna censor it, they wanted to censor it? Because I didn't pick up anything like that. They're simply just critiquing the cover, which is perfectly valid. I don't really think that's puritanism. I honestly disagree heavily with that notion that if you are critiquing this cover, that somehow you're a Puritan. Because me, personally, in no means am I someone who is against sexual freedom, who is against people using their sexualities to feel empowered. I'm not gonna say nobody is allowed to do that, but I think you should be allowed to critique it. Because I personally don't agree that it is empowering or it's feminism. I don't think you shouldn't be allowed to do it though. I don't think you should be punished for doing it, but you can be critiqued. We can have discourse over it, you know? Let's read another post. For me personally, it's just a lot. The album being called Man's Best Friend, aka Dog, a caw bitch, and then the cover. I'm gonna listen, of course, I'm just confused. It gives me an icky feeling. And then Honey Twat says, and it's totally okay for you to have that feeling. Art makes people feel different things. The problem is when people start projecting their own feelings onto her as if that was her intention. And worse, when they bastardize feminist concepts to police a woman experiencing and owning her sexuality. She isn't setting back feminism 100 years or objectifying herself. She is making subversive art. I find that funny and powerful. I understand that is not everyone else's takeaway. Heart emoji. Can I just say something, bro? Just a quick tangent. I cannot stand when people talk like this. It is the most condescending shit ever. You say like, I hope that helps. Oh no, it's okay, but you're wrong. Just like that entire post, insufferable. I just want to disagree with her simply because she's being so passive aggressive. Low-key treating the original poster like she's stupid. Like, fuck off. Literally fuck off. Like, don't talk to me that way. Do not use a heart emoji. I would rather you fucking be mean. Okay? But I really want to hone in on that point, that it is subversive. Because I want to ask you, dear viewer, how is it subversive? Where is the subversion? Because this is going to tie into my next point. The next main argument I've been seeing is it's satire. How is it satire? The dynamic is being mocked. How? How is it being mocked though? When you look at every other promotional piece for the album, How is it being mocked? There is nothing here that's screaming subversion, turning expectations on its head, giving commentary on the irony of it. She's literally just doing what the patriarchy expects out of women, to be submissive. How is that ironic? Where's the satire? Because for one thing, I think satire can be subtle, but most of the time, satire is kind of exaggerated. You can tell something is satire. The fact that so much discourse came out of this shows that the satire is falling flat. Let's be real here. She's flipping the script on how some men treat women as accessories, obedient companions, or trophies to show off. And by posing like a literal pet, she's mocking that dynamic, not endorsing it. But how? How is she mocking it? Nobody can explain how it's being mocked. She's literally just doing it. Just because you're doing it doesn't mean you're mocking it. It's not really providing much credence to the whole satire spin, in my opinion. Because I guess satire nowadays is just like straight up doing the thing you're mocking. Well, where's the satire? I would get it if it was like a deliberate subversion. I don't know. She's holding a knife. I've seen some people say that. Like, oh, have her be holding a knife in the album cover. Or have the roles be reversed. Have a man on all fours like a dog. Which is cliche. You know, that's been done many times before. But that is subversion. That is flipping the power dynamics on its head and mocking it. But when you're playing the role of the dog, and all your promotional material is like you looking up at a man, sitting in between a man's legs, clinging onto a man's legs. Where is it? I don't want to say subversion because I've said it like 10 times, but where is it? And I also just want to point out the fact that she has referenced Lolita multiple times in her work. Even with lyrics she would sing on stage like, I'm just saying, bro, she's playing into these tropes. Where's the satire? I'm not saying she needs to be like a huge pro-feminist, but to call this feminist? I don't know about that one, Chief. I don't know about that one. Because essentially, it's Poe's law. Poe's law is basically when what you're doing is indistinguishable from what you're critiquing. Because if people cannot even tell that you're critiquing it, if there's this much debate over it, I think it's safe to say that it fell a little flat. That maybe the point just didn't go across. Maybe it's poorly done. Maybe it is satire. But if it really is intended to be satire, I think it's done very poorly. Extremely. And of course, we don't have the album out yet, so maybe the songs that come out, the lyrical content will definitely, you know, add a lot of context to this. But at the moment, what we've been presented with so far is not really showing much promise. I'm just saying. No visual cues in the album cover to signify that it's actually critiquing what people are saying it's critiquing. Instead of like directly mimicking old sexist ads from the 50s and 70s, you know, I've been seeing a lot of people comparing them. These ads look pretty much indistinguishable from what Sabrina is doing, and her vibe is very vintage. I love her vibe, actually. But she's bringing back also the bad parts of the vintage era. Because why are people pointing out this comparison? That's not a good thing if you are trying to give a feminist message. It's evidently not working. And you know, say that this is actually a very intellectual take. I do have to point out, like, Sabrina Carpenter does not have like an audience of like hyper intellectual people that are gonna analyze her album. Most people are just gonna take it at face value. Your audience is the general public. You're a huge pop star, so what you do does have an impact on the culture. Most people cannot tell that this is satire because it's not. If the framing of your message is that unclear, how do you think the general public is gonna interpret it? They're not gonna see it and be like, oh, hurrah! She's really subverting those tropes. They're just gonna be like, damn, that's kind of in poor taste. It is in poor taste. Like, it is. I don't know what you want me to say, man. I don't know. Don't get mad at me. Don't get mad at me. Because without the obvious critique, the obvious visual cues that will direct people into thinking that it is a feminist message, then you're just reinforcing the power structure that you're trying to criticize. I'm just saying. I saw this comment on TikTok. I know, TikTok comment, very good source. But it kind of sums it up perfectly. If it really was satire, it would make men feel uncomfortable and women feel seen. Perfect comment. Absolute cinema. They literally just summed it up perfectly. Because truthfully, you go on the Sabrina Carpenter subreddits, the ones that are dedicated to, you know, wanking. A lot of these men, a lot of the people in the comments very much enjoy the album cover. They very much enjoy that Rolling Stone cover she did. They do not see it as anything subversive at all. In fact, it's just feeding their... It's just enabling them, if anything. I don't think, like, Sabrina did a bad thing or anything, but I just think if you're just providing more material for these guys, and they're like, oh, fuck yeah, this is awesome, this is what we've been waiting for, let's go, then I don't think you did your job. And I know what people are gonna say. Men will off to anything, and I do agree with that. Especially if you're a woman celebrity, these males are gonna be constantly posting you off over you no matter what. Like, it doesn't matter how you dress whatsoever. It's always gonna happen. That's just the reality of being a woman, and it sucks ass, alright? Like, you're always gonna be sexualized. But in this case, I just think some of the comments I've been seeing, they're like, oh fuck yeah, she's gonna teach these young girls exactly what their places are. Like, let me find some of these comments. I saved some of them. Good. That's an excellent role model to young ladies. Let them know how they should behave. Like, obviously this guy wrote this with one hand, but I don't like it. I don't like it. You know, people are always saying she's for the female gaze, but what I'm seeing right here is content specifically directed at the male gaze because they are lapping this shit up. She clearly loves the degradation, literally playing the role of a subservient dog and publishing it for the world to see. And all these men just saying, oh man, she's so cute. Like, I love it. She's such a little slut. I mean, let me ask the audience. Do you think the job was achieved to give commentary when in reality you just gave these men a bunch of material? This argument is kind of flimsy because, like I said, they will literally get their rocks off to anything. But I do think it's perpetuating a harmful message much more than a subversive one. And I also want to say this. I mean, if a woman's domestic abuse group comes out and says that your cover is offensive and triggering, I know, 2016 tea, right? But if they're coming out and condemning your cover, then I do think maybe you gotta go back to the drawing board if you were trying to be feminist here. Just saying. I just think their opinion has a little bit of credibility. Local women's aid charity criticizes Sabrina Carpenter over regressive album cover. Picturing herself on all fours with a man pulling her hair and calling it man's best friend isn't subversion, it's a throwback to tired tropes that reduce women to pets, props, and possessions and promote an element of violence and control. Like I said, absolute cinema, they just summarized it perfectly. Because yeah, it is perpetuating violent dynamics between a man and a woman. And I've been seeing comments from some women, domestic abuse survivors, saying that the cover is triggering for them. So I don't know. I don't think it's very empowering, you guys. I'm sorry. I just don't think it's empowering. And I do also want to bring up the culture argument. I do think the context of the current culture should be considered because, for one thing, is it a pop star's responsibility to be politically correct with their art? I don't think so. I don't think we should be looking at a pop star to give us political messages. You know, I think they can do whatever they want with their art. But like I said earlier, that doesn't mean you can't be critiqued. I'm still gonna talk about it. Because unless they deliberately want to be seen as one, like, I don't think we need to be relying on a pop star to give us political opinions. And clearly, I don't think Sabrina Carpenter is the kind of pop star that wants to be very political. I think she just likes making music. Good for her. Let her make music, right? But I do agree, like, I do wish that they did have a, like, they did take on a little more responsibility. Simply because, like, I agree with people saying it is the wrong message to send at this time. Because there was that earlier comment saying, you know, if it wasn't a Roe v. Wade post-world, if it wasn't a post-Roe v. Wade world, I would be way more okay with it. And I agree with that. I do think the context of when you're releasing, you know, your art does have a huge, not huge, but it does have an impact. I think it can be a little irresponsible. I'm not saying they need to be responsible. I'm not saying I'm gonna crucify them for it. you know, I wish there would be a little more tact, a little more decorum. You know what I mean? Because we live in a time where there is like a huge manosphere with like red pill content, with so many people follow, like with so many young men, you know, following Andrew Tate's words as gospel. Just so much deliberate like misogyny peddled to the masses. The algorithms just feeding like a gender war, that kind of shit, you know? Like we are seeing a lot of misogyny on the rise in online culture. So it's just kind of like, do you really need to portray this right now? Like, come on, bro. We already got enough shit being tossed at us as women. You're just gonna reaffirm what these men want to believe. I'm not saying it's her responsibility. Like I said, I'm not saying it's her responsibility. Like, at the end of the day, it's an album cover. It is what it is. But it's like, it could have stayed at the drawing board, you know? She could have done like a man on all fours. That would have been kind of cute. It would have been nice, you know? I'm not a fan of this one. Must we defend what is visibly pandering to the male gaze as something feminist? Come on, y'all. Like, I don't think she's setting women back 100 years or anything. Like, this is not Bonnie Blue we're talking about. But it's just, to me. It's definitely not feminist, okay? I'm just gonna say that. Am I gonna shame her for it? No. It's not that deep. It's not that deep. I know. You're gonna say, oh, but you're making a video on it. Bro, I'm a commentary YouTuber. I gotta make videos on what gets me views, alright? Because I honestly wasn't gonna make a video about this. For a long time, I did not even care about the album cover at all. I was just like, okay, whatever. Like, it is what it is, right? But then I saw some more people talking about it, and it was kind of starting to irk me because people were really saying like this was like a huge empowering feminist message, and I just humbly disagree with that. I genuinely disagree with the notion that sexualizing yourself is empowering. I mean, I think in some contexts it can, depending on how you're presenting it, but in this specific presentation, I don't think it's a very feminist message. Is it a huge deal that it's not a feminist message? No, not really. Like, she can do what she wants. It's her art. I think it's beautiful we have the freedom to be sexual. You know, I'm not gonna shame her for it, but I am gonna critique it. So this is me critiquing it. I do think though, overall, she has a very like Bugs Bunny vibe, like very yoo-hoo boys kind of vibe. So that's why I'm not too offended by it, if at all. But I do think it's in poor taste to call it feminist. Then again, I think that might be a different toilet for another video, because like, for example, I don't think only is very empowering, that kind of stuff. I kind of wanted to make a video on Bonnie Blue. Maybe I will, maybe I won't. I don't know if that's too risque for YouTube. I'm too scared of YouTube's draconian ass censorship, so who knows. Anyways, I don't know if I got my point across in this video. I feel like I repeated myself a lot of times. Like, I had whole bullet points here, like on my phone. Like, see this shit? I take notes for my videos, right? I don't know if I explained myself very well, but please comment your opinions on this topic. I love comments. I love reading them. I slurp them up. All right? But yeah, that's about it. See ya.
Bye-bye.